The Dallas Cowboys are entering one of the most important offseasons in recent franchise history. After a disastrous defensive performance in 2025, major financial reshuffling, complicated contract negotiations, and big decisions looming in free agency and the draft, the organization is clearly trying to reset the trajectory of the team while still competing immediately. For a franchise that carries championship expectations every single year, the pressure in Dallas is nothing new, but the stakes heading into 2026 might be higher than they have been in quite some time. To understand where the Cowboys stand right now, you have to start with the uncomfortable truth about what happened on the defensive side of the ball last season. The unit gave up 511 points, the worst total in the entire league, and one of the worst defensive showings the NFL has seen in decades. Opposing offenses consistently moved the ball with ease, racking up more than 340 yards in 11 of Dallas' 17 games. That level of defensive collapse isn't something that can simply be patched with one signing or one draft pick. It requires a full organizational response, and that response is already beginning to take shape under new defensive coordinator Christian Parker. Parker is tasked with rebuilding the identity of a defense that once relied on speed, aggression, and turnovers but completely lost its edge last season. His scheme will require discipline, intelligence, and players capable of processing the game faster than they did a year ago. That makes the development of young defenders absolutely critical. Two names stand out immediately when discussing players who must take a leap in 2026: Shavon Revel Jr. and DeMarvion Overshown. Revel's rookie season was supposed to be a feel-good story. When the Dallas Cowboys selected him in the third round of the 2025 draft, many analysts believed the team had stolen a first-round talent who had slipped due to an ACL injury. The expectation wasn't that he would dominate immediately, but there was hope that once healthy he could develop into a long-term cornerstone at cornerback. Instead, the early returns were rough. After missing the first half of the season while recovering, Revel debuted in Week 11 and struggled almost immediately. Quarterbacks quickly identified him as a target in coverage, and opposing offenses didn't hesitate to attack him repeatedly. Over 7 games, he allowed 21 receptions for nearly 300 yards, posting one of the lowest coverage grades in the entire league. Those numbers tell part of the story, but the bigger concern was how comfortable opposing offenses looked when throwing in his direction. Young corners often experience growing pains, especially when coming off a major injury, but Revel's struggles exposed deeper issues in technique, recognition, and defensive communication. Still, the Cowboys aren't giving up on him. In fact, the organization appears confident that Parker's system could unlock the potential that made Revel such an intriguing prospect coming out of college. Physically, the tools are all there: size, speed, length, and strength. What Parker has emphasized publicly is that the next step for Revel is mastering the mental side of the position. Reading routes, recognizing offensive formations, and reacting before the ball is even thrown. If that growth happens, Revel could quickly become a key piece of the Cowboys' defensive rebuild. If it doesn't, the secondary could remain one of the team's biggest vulnerabilities. While Revel's challenge is about development, Overshown's story revolves around durability. Few players on the Dallas roster possess the athletic upside that Overshown brings to the field. His speed, range, and playmaking instincts give him the potential to become one of the most dynamic linebackers in the league. But injuries have repeatedly slowed his progress. Overshown suffered a devastating knee injury in 2024, tearing multiple ligaments and casting serious doubt about his future availability. The recovery timeline alone suggested he might miss the entire 2025 season. Instead, in a remarkable comeback, he returned late in the year and immediately made an impact. In just 6 games, Overshown recorded 22 tackles and consistently flashed the explosive athleticism that made him such an exciting prospect. His ability to close space, disrupt plays, and cover ground sideline to sideline gives the Cowboys a defensive weapon that very few teams possess. But flashes are no longer enough. Entering his 4th season, Overshown is approaching a turning point in his career. The Cowboys need him to stay healthy, stay on the field, and evolve from a promising talent into a reliable defensive leader. If that happens, he could become the centerpiece of Parker's new defensive system. If injuries continue to interrupt his progress, Dallas may eventually be forced to look elsewhere for stability at linebacker. While the defense remains a major focus, the Cowboys' offseason story doesn't stop there. One of the biggest headlines in Dallas right now centers on wide receiver George Pickens and his contract situation. The Cowboys placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on Pickens, guaranteeing that he won't hit unrestricted free agency for now. That tag comes with a hefty price tag of roughly $27.3 million for the 2026 season. And when you're already paying another elite receiver like CeeDee Lamb, the financial implications become significant. There are essentially three possible outcomes. Pickens could play the entire season under the franchise tag, which would keep him in Dallas but consume a large portion of the salary cap. The two sides could agree to a long-term extension that lowers the immediate cap hit while securing his future with the team. Or, in a much less likely but still possible scenario, another team could attempt to acquire him through a trade or offer sheet. The Cowboys clearly want Pickens to remain part of the offense, and quarterback Dak Prescott has publicly supported him during the negotiation process. Prescott himself has experienced the franchise tag situation in the past, and his advice to Pickens was simple: bet on yourself and keep focusing on football. That advice reflects the broader philosophy of this Dallas roster. The Cowboys believe they have enough star power to compete, but they also know they must manage their finances carefully to maintain a balanced roster. That's exactly why the team recently restructured the contracts of Prescott, Lamb, and offensive lineman Tyler Smith. Those moves cleared more than $60 million in salary cap space and allowed Dallas to become compliant under the league's financial limits. But the restructuring wasn't just about survival. It was about opportunity. Free agency is approaching fast, and the Cowboys are preparing to be aggressive in adding talent. Prescott himself has openly said that this is the year the team needs to take a big jump forward, and that means bringing in players who can contribute immediately rather than developing slowly. The pass rush could be one of the biggest targets for improvement. Reports have linked Dallas to star defensive end Max Crosby, although acquiring him would likely require a significant trade package. Another potential option could be Trey Hendrickson, one of the league's most productive edge rushers in recent seasons. Adding another elite pass rusher alongside Micah Parsons would dramatically change the identity of this defense. Suddenly, the Cowboys could go from one of the league's worst defensive units to one capable of overwhelming opposing quarterbacks. And if you're enjoying this deep breakdown of the Cowboys' offseason strategy, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel right now. We cover every major development around the NFL, and you won't want to miss the next analysis as the offseason continues to unfold. Of course, free agency isn't the only avenue Dallas will use to rebuild the roster. The upcoming draft could play a massive role in reshaping the defense as well. Early projections suggest that cornerback and edge rusher are the most likely positions targeted with the Cowboys' first-round selections. Prospects like Mansour Delane and Jermud McCoy have emerged as popular mock draft choices, particularly after standout performances at the NFL Combine. There's also the possibility that Dallas trades down in the first round to accumulate additional draft capital. In some projections, the Cowboys move back from pick number 12, add extra second-round selections, and build depth across multiple positions including safety, linebacker, and defensive line. For a team trying to rebuild its defensive identity, that kind of strategy could provide immediate help while also strengthening the roster for the future. At the same time, Dallas faces decisions about several internal players who may leave in free agency. Offensive line depth pieces like Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass could attract interest from other teams looking for affordable starters. Losing them wouldn't cripple the roster, but it would remove valuable depth that has helped stabilize the offensive line over the past few seasons. These are the kinds of choices every contender must navigate. Balancing star contracts, retaining depth players, drafting future contributors, and fixing glaring weaknesses. And that brings us back to the core question facing the Cowboys entering the 2026 season. Can this team bounce back quickly enough to remain a legitimate contender? The answer will depend on several factors. Revel must develop into a reliable corner. Overshown must stay healthy and become the defensive playmaker Dallas believes he can be. The front office must manage contracts effectively while adding talent in free agency and the draft. And the offense must continue to produce at a high level under Prescott's leadership. If those pieces come together, the Cowboys could experience one of the most dramatic defensive turnarounds in the league. If they don't, the frustration that has surrounded this franchise for years could continue. Dallas has the resources. They have the star players. They have the motivation after a disappointing season. Now the real work begins. And as the new league year approaches, every decision made in Dallas will shape whether the Cowboys return to championship contention or remain stuck searching for answers. If you want to stay updated on every major Cowboys development this offseason, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We'll be breaking down every move, every rumor, and every key moment as the Cowboys attempt to rebuild their defense and chase another Super Bowl run.